Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you step by step how to build a complete content planning system using Airtable. It's perfect for bloggers, video creators, podcasters, or anyone really just managing multiple channels of content. So we're going to start from scratch. We're only going to use the free features so you can follow along no matter what your experience level is with Airtable. And by the end, you're going to have an automated, visually organized workspace for planning, scheduling, and tracking your content. All right, so let's get started. All right, getting started with the Airtable. When you first log into your Airtable account, you're going to see a screen like this. You're not going to have anything in here. I obviously have other content and stuff, but this is what your home screen is going to look like. So when you open it, these are called your workspaces, and your workspaces you should really think of as bases. Each of these is an individual base, which is just a flexible database that you're going to be able to use. So let's create a new one. I'm going to add one on my own. It's called Untitled for right now. As you see, when you create a brand new table from scratch, it's going to have some generic fields in it. It's going to give you something to start with. We're going to clean all this up so that you're going to have your content system. First off, let's rename this to content planning. We can change colors. You have your brand colors in here. You have something fancy. You can add different icons. I feel like the best use of this is to organize and then make it easier so that when you're in your workspace, when you see the list of all the Airtables that you're working with, this one's going to be easy to find, just like the others. So we will set this up. So we have content planning and we have table one. All right, let's change table one first. We'll call this content. And these are so you have name, notes. We're going to clear all this out. This very first field right here is called the primary. And this doesn't change. As you'll see within these, you can move these ones around. You can kind of stack them. You can't change this. We're going to call this one title. And what this is going to be the title of whatever the content is. So that'll be the primary field. We will add a status, add that in there. You know, necessarily, you might need assignees. For the sake of this video, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to change this. We will make this a content type. It'll be a single select, call it type. And then you can have color-coded options. Let's go video, blog, pod guide, an ebook or something along those lines. That's good enough. All right, these are the types. We'll hit save. It's going to change that to type there. Now I have a type. I can drop that down and see different types. You can add, again, unlimited numbers in here. Title, type, status. And the next field that I'm going to want is a publish date. So I will move that over. Notes I'll leave towards the end. We don't need attachment. Let's call this to pub date. Change this to a date. See, there's lots of options here for different types of records, but this will be date because I want the publish date. That sounds good. Save that from change. Right. And for notes, I like to use notes. Maybe it's tasks. Maybe it's just something long. A long text is probably the best format. And then I like to check this box to enable rich formatting. That way you can have bolding and you can have other kind of like markdown markup language inside of that. If it's saved, I don't necessarily need this attachment one. I'm going to get rid of this. Now I have a title, type, status, publish date, and notes. Now, remember, this is the primary field, and then everything follows after that. So let's give this some work. So this is an Airtable video. I'm going to make some content called table or that. All right. And maybe I'll have another one called Airtable tips and tricks, and maybe a third one, product info. All right, 3 different titles for content. Airtable for dummies. Let's make this a blog post, tips and tricks. Maybe make that a guide, product info. Maybe make that another blog post. Status. To do progress done, I like to add in other statuses. So I can add in maybe in review and maybe even published. And again, just like the types, you'll be able to put this in. If I were to put this in to do or in progress, you can give it a publish date. Let's say I want this thing to get published in the middle of August. We'll just say the 15th and then notes and tasks. All right, but next what I want to do is I want to show you some advanced functionality. Basically, you can use this as it is. Nobody really would, but it is functional. You can have your content types in progress stuff. You can run through this. But what I want to show you now is some of the automations and some of the formulas that you can add into this to make this even better. If I go into adding a new field and I want to find the one it calls form, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop in a form, and this is going to count the number of days until something is published. I'm going to change this to days until, and if I drop in this, date time difference, publish date. It's going to be pulling off of that field. And it's today and then how many days, create the field, and it's going to tell me how many days are left. So now I've got 15 days until this publish date. These are nothing because there's nothing in there, but I can add this in really quick if I just say progress. In progress, it's just going to get pretty. I can add in some dates here for the 29th. Maybe this product info blog is actually going to come out, a few weeks after that. So we've got a staggering of dates. We have notes and tasks. Now, let me show you an automation here. Now, if I go into automations, you can browse the catalog. There's a bunch of stuff you can do, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a trigger. So when a record matches a condition, and over here, it'll say which table. I'm going to use the content table, add a condition when the type is video. Nothing's going to figure, that's fine. So it's going to be in there. Now, the action I want to take is I want to update a record, put the table, inside content, record ID, you'll choose the record ID from what you have. So it's just Airtable record ID from the field. What field do I want to update? I want to update the notes and tasks every time this video is selected. And then in here, I'm going to drop in a checklist. And so what this should allow me to have a complete checklist every time I want to enter a video piece. So write the script, edit this down, write script, create thumbnail, record video. I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to hit run as configured, run test. It's going to tell me there's nothing when I run the test, which is fine. Close that. And when I go back to data, we're going to see what happens. This is going to be switched on. We don't have any videos in here, but you also see that there's nothing in any of the notes. Let's say this Airtable for Dummies, I decided it's no longer going to be a blog post and I want to make it a video. Once I change this to video, you're going to see that this populated automatically. Now, you can create these checklists, these note sections, or anything automatically for any type of content type. Maybe it's when something gets moved in static. It's really totally flexible to whatever kind of ideas you may have in mind. But this is the one that I think actually is most helpful, is being able to use formulas to get countdowns and then using the automations to set up some type of notes or tasks within each of the pieces of content. Why would you want to automate your workflow? The primary reason is that's just going to speed everything up. The whole idea of building a content planning system and then more the advanced stuff that I go into with the automations and of building the content is by having these automations inside of Airtable, it's going to speed up and make your life more efficient and easier to manage. Okay. We have content. Now let's add campaigns, because in reality, right, we have content and now we need to have campaigns, because as you know, you can't really have a whole bunch of content unless you have campaigns wrap around it. We're in marketing. Marketing is run off of campaigns. So I'm gonna start from scratch again. I'm gonna call this one campaigns, save. Again, we've got all these generic fields. We'll keep name, because the name will be the name of the campaign. Notes at the end, because we still will use that to some degree. Maybe attachments, if your campaign has assets or things along those lines, we'll leave that in there as well. We'll have a status, and I don't necessarily need an assignee. You can always add assignees if you have multiple users, but we don't have that. I'm going to delete it. All right. Now, if I have a campaign and I want to call this, Airtable campaign 1, I say this is Airtable. Let's give it some real name. Airtable Education. We'll change this one, the campaign 1 to Airtable Onboarding. All right, so these are the campaign names. And I can have statuses. I can add in the same statuses that I had before. I'll just say this is in progress. This one can be in progress also. Notes. You can automate this. You can add in whatever notes you want. You can add in whatever attachments you want from Drive. There's a lot of different ways that you can add files. You can connect it from local files right off of your desktop. You can add links, you can pull right from your webcam, Google Drive, OneDrive. As you can tell, you can move a lot of stuff into this for attachments. And then what I also want to show you really quickly is how to connect these records, because now you have campaigns and then you have content, but how does your campaigns match up with the content? And what you do is you go into Airtable, you hit this, you want to say find, which button is it? Oh, link. So link to another record. I'm in campaigns, I want to link to content. I do want to allow multiple records. And so let me take a moment. While I'm in campaigns, a single campaign like Airtable onboarding may have multiple pieces of content attached to it. That would just make sense. Conversely, a piece of content isn't typically from multiple campaigns. Or maybe it is, but I'm not going to want to see it that way. I'm going to show you how you toggle back and forth. Inside of the campaigns tab, I'm going to allow linking to multiple records. So create the field. And I'm going to do it by type, add one field. And then if I go into content, I should see that field here now. And if I decide that Airtable for Dummies is for education, I can say that tips and tricks is for onboarding, and maybe product info, also onboarding, right? Now I have in the content, I've got 3 pieces of content, different types of content, days until it goes, and then I have the campaigns associated with it. And then when we go into the campaigns tab again, if I want to just look at the campaigns, I can now campaign, and I can see all of the pieces of content that are associated with it. That's pretty cool. And now this is good, but what we want to do next is show you some different views. If I were to be in the content and we have publish dates, we have a grid view. If I want to add a new view, we have all of these options. First, I'll start with calendar. The calendar view is going to use the publish date, and you'll see that in a calendar view, you can see when these individual pieces are going to get published. So you can build out your entire content calendar and have a calendar view within this. What is also helpful is having a view like a Kanban board. And many marketers are familiar with it. Use a status, hit done, and you'll see all the things. And then from here, it's really easy. You can just move things around. Maybe this is still in to do, whatever it is. You can move everything back. That's what the Kanban board is. So now you have a calendar, you have the grid view, and you have the Kanban board. I found calendar view especially helpful when it came to being in a meeting and trying to articulate when things are about to go out. It's easy to do it from here, but it's easier when you can visualize it on a calendar. But let's recap. Starting from scratch, you created a whole new database. Content planning is the name of the base. And if I go back into Airtable, you'll see it here. This is your workspace. This is the base. Created this from scratch. You have the title of the content, types, status, publish dates, formulas, so you can calculate days until publish. You created an automation that will update the notes, really create that automation to do anything you want. You've created linked records to another tab called campaigns, where you have the individual campaigns set up, and then you can see the topics or the pieces of content that go into that campaign. So I encourage all of you, if you hadn't done this while you're watching the video, give this a shot. It is super easy. And I hope that this was helpful. Learning how to use Airtable, these formulas, these automations has changed my life as a marketer. And the more I learn about how to use it, and then the more advanced stuff that I show in other videos about how to automate the content production system based off of this foundational information of creating Airtable, should help you a lot too. So if you're interested in learning more, you can like, you can subscribe, reach out to me. Interrupt Media, this is what we do all day. We are building content systems and the automations and everything else that goes behind it for clients. So if you're interested in a service like this, reach out to me.